You're live.
Hello, everybody. This is Sheila Collins, the chair of the Scottsdale Library Board. I'm calling to order the regular meeting of Wednesday, November 18th, 2020. It's a pleasure to see a few of you in person and also to have a few more electronically. We have Marna and Fred and Sam and myself and Kira here in a very socially distanced manner at the Appaloosa Library. So since we have such a full agenda, I'm going to move into the roll call immediately. And I'll start with myself, Sheila Collins, present. Vice Chair, Sheila Raymond.
Present.
Board Member Sam Campana. Here. Frida Hartman. Frida? We'll see if Frida joins us later. Fred Klein.
Here.
Marna McClendon.
Here.
And Janet Smigulski.
And Frida is showing. She might be muted, but I see her.
Here.
Frida? Okay, we got you, Frida. Thank you. As our first order of business, let's look at the regular meeting minutes of September 16th, 2020. And for those of you who were present, if you'd like to review those. Do I hear any issues, suggested changes? Or if not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Sheila, this is Sheila Raymond. I move that we approve the minutes.
I second.
And
This
who is
Janet.
that? Second?
Janet. Janet.
Okay, I thought. Okay, second by Janet. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved then, and approved. Okay, the next, as we move to our regular meeting agenda, before we do that, I'm going to change the microphone over to Kira, and she's going to talk a little bit about the Zoom etiquette as we go through the meeting.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm just going to be brief with this. I feel like a lot of people are learning how to attend electronic meetings, but just as a reminder to make sure that you are in a quiet place and that your microphone is always muted. It is also very helpful as if you do have a comment to make sure that you say your name so that we know who is speaking to us so we can answer appropriately. So just wanted to say that. And now I will hand the microphone back over to Chair Collins. Thank you.
And the first order of business is a new board member introduction. And I think it's important to say that really during this extraordinary time, during the pandemic, we have changed over 50% of our library board, or just under that, with 3 new members. We recognized Frida at a previous meeting. But today I want to introduce to the group Sam Campana and Fred Klein. And I'd like each of them to maybe just share for a minute or two what their interest is in the library and why they chose to become involved. So I'll start with you, Fred.
Thank you. I'm Fred Klein. I've lived in Scottsdale for 23 years, my wife and I. I had a long newspaper career as a reporter, editor, and columnist. I'm retired now. In my hiking days, I was active with the McDowell-Sonoran Conservancy. I started their hiking program. I've been on the Preserve Commission. I've been on the Parks Board. I'm a lap swimmer. So that was my interest. I represented the lap swimmers on the Parks Board. I've written a number of books, which you can look up on Amazon under my proper name, Frederick C. Klein. Some of them make really nice gift items, so maybe you should check them out, especially for sports fans. I've been interested in both child and adult literacy programs. I've worked with kids in Mesa. I worked with adults through the Laubach literacy program, mostly grad students and professors, visiting grad students and professors at ASU, and that's a strong interest of mine. I'm interested in books, generally, having written a few, like I said. And I hope to make a contribution here.
We're glad you're here. Pam,
Thank you.
turn it over to you.
Thank you. Libraries have long been important to me. I shared this when I applied, but my mother was a librarian in a very small town of about 800 people growing up in rural Idaho. And so she had a beautiful collection of classic books that was pretty unusual in those days. And I grew up with a special appreciation for the written word and tried to instill that in my children. So I served on the city council for 12 years, and when I was done, there was some thousands of dollars left over in my little fund, and as a family, we decided where we wanted to donate that money, and we gave it to the library when they were doing the new knowledge center. But it was a choice of my 3 children and mine to do that. I was very proud of them that that's what they wanted to do, but no surprise because they all went to Our Lady of Perpetual Help. And because I was a single mom, the library did a lot of raising my after-school children, I must say. Carlo, who was the guard, I don't know if any of you remember him, dear man that welcomed people at Civic Center Library, knew all of my children well, and they knew him. So I'm very excited to be part of this and was happy to be selected, and reading and books are just a big part of our life. And so I hope that I can be helpful in having other people have that same ethic.
Great. Well, we're glad to have both of you join us. We'll move now to the second item on the agenda, and that is the library materials collection development for 2021. And Kira and Rebecca Jones will be joining her to talk about this.
All right, and everybody, if I could ask just for a moment of, give me a second to pull up the right presentation. This is not it. Give me 1 second. And I can stop screen sharing. I'm going to stop screen sharing here while I pull up the correct presentation.
Well, the agenda is sent prior. Not all of the materials are provided, but a significant part is. Would that be correct, Karen?
Actually, Chair Collins and Member Campana, when we email out the agenda to you, there are links that link to each of the presentations. So I probably should have been clear when I sent that email out. So all these presentations that you will see today were linked on the agenda. So for future, yeah.
Did that come directly from you, Sarah? Because I did a search of library and a view, and I didn't see that. No.
That came from Ruth Johnson, I believe, from the city of Scottsdale, sent out the agenda. Ruth, yep.
That's correct. It is from Ruth. I'm sorry. This is Sheila Raymond. I'm looking at your packet right now on my computer and talking to you on my iPad. Technology.
Yeah, I'm doing the same. I can look at the presentation from my my computer. This is Janet.
Okay, everyone, I'm getting ready to share the screen. And this, again, is item number 2, library material collection development. And I'm going to do this along with Rebecca Jones is joining me. She is virtual, and Rebecca Jones is the collection manager. And we are going to, again, present on library materials collection. Let me go from the beginning, and I appreciate everyone's patience as we navigate the technology. Before Rebecca jumps into her official presentation, I just wanted to give a brief overview of the fiscal year 2021 library budget reduction, just the facts. As we all know, the Scottsdale community, the nation, everybody has been struggling through COVID-19, and that has definitely impacted the library as well. So really, our library budget in fiscal year 1920, you can see here, was right around $9 million. Fiscal year 2021, the fiscal year we are in right now, is right about 7,752,741, so right around $7 million. So we did have a 14.4% budget reduction to the library's operating budget. So we were not alone in that. A lot of city departments did the same thing as the city navigates some serious economic uncertainty. So with that, that definitely is going to impact how the library operates. It is important here to keep in mind that we are operating reduced library operations due to COVID-19 and the economic uncertainty. And what I mean by that is that right now, currently, Appaloosa Library, Arabian Library branches, the buildings are closed. So while we're offering drive-through services, the buildings themselves are closed. Civic Center and Mustang Library, because those are our most attended libraries. So based on gate counts, those are the most used libraries that the public is using. So those two branches are open with reduced operating hours as well. So that's just an important fact to keep in mind as we're talking about reductions overall. Another big piece of that budget reduction was Palomino Library. So I know that the library board is very well aware that the city of Scottsdale did phase out public library services at Palomino Library last year. So along with that were these positions that I have listed here: full-time lead librarian 2, a library supervisor, 2 full-time librarians, a library aide, I'm sorry about that, 3 library aides, and 2 pages. So personnel is a significant part of a budget, and that was also, that's reflective in that reduction. And we've got a question from Board Member Sam Campana. And if you give me a second here, we're going to walk this over just so the public can hear the questions. We have to be sure of that.
Sorry, I'm going to be interrupting all the time, but I just wondered if that Palomino Public Library closure was reflected in the $9 million. Was that reduced maybe from 11 million the year before, and when you closed Palomino it became 9, or the 7 million reflects the 9 million?
The 7 million is part of the
Thank you.
It's part of the Palomino is included in that reduction.
I got it.
Sorry if I wasn't clear on that.
No, thank you very much. I'm just trying to thank you.
Hey, Kira,
Right, and
Sheila has a question.
Yes.
Yeah, Kara,
Thank you very much.
This is Sheila Raymond. I don't know if any of the new members are aware of the reasons why Palomino was closed, and if you could just briefly get them up to date, because this is something that's fairly new.
Certainly. What board member Sheila Raymond is referencing is why did the city phase out of Palomino? And the simple answer to that is we really just were not getting the use of Palomino Library. So it was a public library housed at Desert Mountain High School, and definitely the students were taking advantage coming into the library after school hours. But when you looked at public use of that library, it was very, very minimal. So what we did find is the public would use it to come and pick up holds. So they were using it, but picking up their holds, not really browsing the stacks and hanging out. Another thing that the public was using Palomino for was for programming. So we did have some books to boogie programs and some programs for the younger children. And just for reference of our new board members, prior to COVID, the library has, for lack of a better term, taken over a program room at Rio Montaña Park, which is located at 130th and Shea, with the specific intent of meeting that programming need. So while we have phased out of Palomino, we knew that hold pickups were popular as well as some of the programming, and we wanted to be able to continue to offer that programming at Rio Montaña, which we still plan to do when it is safe to offer that programming to other families that live around the Palomino area. So thank you, Board Member Raymond, for bringing that up. Can I answer any other questions about that relative to Palomino? Okay, with that, I will move on. So another piece, and now again, here the slide references the 2021 budget reduction information. A significant part of that reduction was to the library's collection budget. So the collection budget was reduced by $600,000. This includes reductions to the physical and digital material. And again, Rebecca Jones is going to go into how we managed this and can answer questions around this topic. Also important to note is that the Scottsdale Public Library does benefit from the Maricopa County Library Assistance Program, and that too will be referenced in Rebecca's presentation. And if not, we've got both Rebecca Jones and Becky Gallivan Butler who are on the call. They work specifically with the collection, so we're going to jump into how the library is working with this reduction. So with that, Rebecca Jones, welcome to the board meeting, and are you ready to take on? And you can tell me to move next slide when you're prepared.
Sure, I'm ready to go. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm Rebecca Jones. I'm the collection management coordinator, which means I am in charge of purchasing all physical and digital materials for the collection, as well as managing weeding and all that other fun stuff that goes into managing what we own. So go ahead and go to the next slide, Kira. So as Kira mentioned, our overall materials budget was reduced by $600,000, which is just about 60% of our total materials budget, physical and digital. So basically that amount was the total amount that we generally budget for physical materials from our city budget. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Kira. We do, however, get some additional funding outside of our city budget. It comes from the Library Assistance Program, which is money that we receive from the Maricopa County to help supplement library materials purchasing. So this is funded by property tax. It's dependent on property valuation and as well as the number of cardholders that we have inside of Maricopa County, but out of Scottsdale. So if you're a non-Scottsdale resident who has a card with Scottsdale, we do get some funding from Maricopa County to help fund for those people. So we received $489,549 this year, which is just $6,000 less than last year. Typically, in times of economic crisis, as you guys probably all know, drops in property values lag behind any sort of other economic problems. So we didn't really see much change in our LAP funding this year, which has been very helpful as far as keeping the collection going. We're using this funding to support both physical and digital spending. Typically, we use this funding solely to help support physical spending, but this year we needed to make some changes to accommodate the drastic reductions, and so we're using it to fund some of our digital spending as well. The important thing to keep in mind about LAP funding is that while we have gotten this funding to support collection budgets for the past 8 years or so, it has not always come to us in this format. So, and it's not guaranteed to come in the future. The Maricopa County Board of Supervisors makes determinations about how this funding is spent. So we have had it go to databases in the past. They've given checks like straight to the city, not just for materials, but just here's a check to Scottsdale to help fund the library. So while this is very helpful money and we very much appreciate it, it is not guaranteed in the future. The other thing to keep in mind is we don't know what our funding from this is going to be until like April or May. That's when the county tells us how much money we're likely to get. So as we go through our funding process for the city, this is sort of a mystery item for us as far as figuring out how much money we're going to have next year. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Kira. So after the first quarter, our physical usage has declined 44% over the last year in the same period, which is not surprising. Our digital usage has increased by 23%, again, kind of as we expect. So our overall usage has declined by 22%. Keep in mind that our hours of service have been reduced by like a flat 25%. And that's if you consider hours at drive-up windows and curbside pickup to be equivalent to just normal open hours. That's a 25% decrease. So our usage decline is actually not too out of line with our decrease in hours and services. The total monthly physical usage does remain higher than the total monthly digital usage. Even despite the fact that we're not open that much, we are still seeing more physical circulation than digital circulation. So physical materials are still a high priority for us. The physical usage has always outstripped our digital usage, but it used to be more like 2/3 to 1/3 physical to digital. And now we're really close to 50-50. It's like 55-45. So we're seeing a much more even usage across physical and digital. But as soon as we opened Mustang and Civic Center, even with limited hours, we did see that physical circulation, which had been below our digital circulation while we were largely closed. It jumped right back up over digital as soon as we opened some hours. So it's physical usage is still a really strong proponent of our usage. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. And I know this is kind of awkward here, but we do have a question from Library Board Member Fred Klein. So I'm going to walk the microphone over to him if you don't mind pausing. Here you go.
Thank you. Yeah, what's the definition of physical materials?
So that would be everything that you check out physically from the library. So books, audiobooks, DVDs, culture passes, science kits, book club kits, pretty much anything you get in your hand and you use your card to check out. That's a physical checkout from the library.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, and Rebecca, we also have another question from Board Member Sam Campana. I'm moving the microphone over.
Rebecca, from the slide before where you talk about that county tax money that comes in, that's
Yes.
a dedicated tax. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the tax line on your property tax bill, actually, you have a tax line from the county that is to libraries. That goes to support the Maricopa County Library District, as well as also getting money out to other county library systems. So because the county library district serves like unincorporated areas or cities that don't have libraries, but we are still part of Maricopa County, so our citizens are paying that library tax, so we get a portion of those funding. But how it's determined, like how they portion that out, is, like I said, kind of up to them.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead and go on to the next slide, Kira. So as a result of our strong LAP funding this year and some digital cancellations, as well as savings from non-materials accounts, we were able to maintain about 60% of our normal physical materials budget. So monthly last year, we spent about $86,000 a month on physical materials. And this year we're spending about $53,000 a month on physical materials. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Kira. So we did have to make some reductions to digital services. We did cancel 2 of our services, Hoopla and Value Line Online. Hoopla was popular, but expensive. So the way Hoopla worked is we paid every time someone checked something out, and depending on what they checked out, the cost varied. So it could be anywhere from free to $3.99 per checkout. And so our average cost per checkout for Hoopla was a little over $2. So even though we had previously been spending about $90,000 a year on that, it only gave us about 45,000 circulations a year, in comparison to, say, Overdrive, which we spend a little over $100,000 a year on as part of our consortia, and we get more than 400,000 circulations a year on that one. So we do see a pretty significant difference in what we were achieving, so for about the same amount of money. So we chose to cancel Hoopla, and then we also canceled Value Line Online, because we do get Value Line in print at our branches, and Value Line is available from other Value libraries. Maricopa County offers it, and so that people are able to still access it because they can get a card with Maricopa County. And we do have Morningstar, which is not the same service, but has similar information. So we felt that that was a bit of a redundancy, so we canceled that one as well. We reduced our monthly budget allotment for other services, such as Acorn. Last year, we actually didn't have a budget cap on Acorn, so people could watch however much they wanted. But we weren't able to maintain that because it was very popular, and we needed to have much more consistent budgeting this year since we had so little wiggle room to play with. We're also having a bit of a unintentional saving in that Recorded Books, who provides magazine service, audiobook service, Acorn Video is also through them. They are actually merging with Overdrive, and some of the services have now become redundant, and so we no longer will be able to purchase them through RB Digital. So we had an audiobook collection through RB Digital, Recorded Books digital platform, and that has since merged with Overdrive, and so we can't renew that through them. So that was some unintended savings, but that has definitely helped us this year, and we'll also see some savings in magazines as that's coming up in Emerge as well. So because we did have to cancel some of these services that we had previously had, we are going to probably see less growth than we might otherwise have seen in digital services. So we're anticipating digital services to continue to grow, but it may not be as strong as some other libraries are showing because they haven't canceled their digital services. Do I see a question?
You have a hand raised. Yes, we do have a hand. We've got 2 hand raises. So we're going to start. I hope you guys can hear me. I'm sorry, we're passing the microphones around here in person, but we're going to go. I know Frida Hartman raised her hand, and then we have Fred Klein. So Sheila, do you mind that I'm fielding this? Okay. All right. So Frida, if you want to go ahead and unmute, and I think we have someone else, but we'll go Frida first.
Yes. Can you hear me? This is Frida Hartman.
Yes. Hello.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. My question is, in the previous slide, I believe the information there suggested, or maybe it was the slide before then, that digital services were popular, basically, or they had increased in usage, I guess is the better term to use. But I'm wondering if there is there it is right there, by 23%. I'm wondering if we don't have the digital services at the same level and going forward, if there is some way that we can tap into that larger system of a cooperative or shared relationship. And I think you mentioned something about Value Line Online being one that was available in a larger system. Can you share a little bit more about that and what the potential is for additional access to digital online materials and resources that way, for if we don't have it at our particular libraries?
Sure. So there's a few different ways that we provide access to material. We have digital services that we pay for ourselves from Scottsdale budget and money that only Scottsdale customers have access to. So you have to have a Scottsdale library card to participate. Then we have digital services that are paid for by the county. So the county provides us with Rocket Languages as well as Ancestry.com and some other access. And so that's available to anybody with a library card from any library in the county. And then there's online services that are provided by the state library. So everybody in the state has access to like Gale databases for research purposes. And the bulk of our research type services are actually available through county and state payment. We pay for our what we would consider e-materials. So like the things that people are able to check out and read. So kind of the digital version of the stuff that we have in our collection. So we typically pay for those as well. We are part of a consortia for Overdrive, which is our largest digital service. So we participate with Phoenix Public Library, the county, Glendale, Peoria, Apache Junction, and Mesa as part of a consortia. So we've been part of that consortia for almost 15 years at this point. So we have a really nice big collection from that. And so our usage on that much outstrips our payment to the consortia. So we're really lucky to be part of that consortia. In Maricopa County, if you live in Maricopa County, you can get a library card from any Maricopa County library for free. And because the libraries offer that, they're able to get that money from the county. So if you offer free library cards to other cities, citizens, then you're able to get that funding from Maricopa County. So all of the library systems within Maricopa County offer that service. So anytime there's a service that's offered at another library that we don't have, you can get a card with that other library for free and use it. Now, sometimes they're going to make you go to the library to sign up for the card. It's not always the most convenient. Currently, most libraries are offering online signups, especially Phoenix and Maricopa County. So you don't actually even have to show up. You can just get a card online and then you can use their services. But yeah, they all participate in that kind of cooperative library card signups.
That would seem to have a lot of potential in the future, since because of COVID, we're all getting more and more well-versed in online and all of the remote access and so forth. So that might be a really good avenue. But then that raises the question of the Scottsdale Library collections, digital, and what the strategy is for them for the future. And I'm sure we'll talk about that later.
Well, and one of the things that is always tricky is that, of course, digital checkouts count as checkouts, which is usage. So if we choose not to offer a service and instead have people use it through another library system, which we encourage because we like to share as a library, it's what we do. But it does mean that cuts back on our usage numbers, which then does impact in a lot of ways our funding. So it's kind of a catch-22 sometimes when you get into that. And unfortunately, not every, it's hard to write contracts sometimes in cooperative to do those sort of cooperative things, because not every vendor, a vendor would rather have multiple contracts because they make more money that way. So we don't always get a chance to kind of enter into cooperative agreements. But it is something that I quarterly attend a meeting with all the other county libraries, as well as the state librarian and some other county librarians, where we talk about our digital services, our usage, who has what, so that we kind of keep up with what everyone else is doing and know who has something to offer that we don't. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Fred, do you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Yeah, I have two quick questions. When the library buys so-called materials, what is it? Is there a special rate, or does it pay retail?
So when we buy physical materials, we typically get a discount for, say, a hardcover bestseller like a James Patterson or a John Grisham. We usually get a 40% discount off of the list price. And then we pay for processing. So we pay an additional fee on top of that 40% off to get it processed and shelf ready. But yes, we do get a discount on physical materials. On digital materials, the library actually pays more than retail. So typically, if I purchase, say, the newest James Patterson for the library collection online, it's going to cost us $60 per copy. Only one person can check it out at a time. And we will have to repurchase that copy in 2 years because it will expire. So we pay about 4 times the rate for a digital copy as we pay for a physical copy in general.
Yeah, one more. What's Acorn?
Acorn is actually a British television channel.
That's what I thought.
Video producer, and so we have access to that for library customers.
Thank you.
More questions?
I think Janet had a question.
Do you mind if I take? Sure. Okay, and we've got board member Campana has a question too, but I know there's some people on Zoom that have questions. So Mike, can you find out who has hand raised there?
Yeah, Janet had a question.
Yeah, I have a question. In looking at these budget reductions, and this might not be a large amount, but I think it was 164,000 originally projected. When we initiated the fine-free policy, it was projected that the library would be losing that revenue, and we had hoped that the city would make that up. Are those numbers included anywhere, that 164,000? Because I thought I heard that it would come from the materials budget, the collection budget. Have you considered that lost revenue in these projections?
Rebecca, do you mind if I take that?
Of course, Kira.
Okay, all right. Janet, it's really hard to say, especially with COVID, because quite honestly, we really just had to reduce. So that number is really COVID based. And so it's really hard to answer that just because COVID hit and not just the library, of course, but everybody had to reduce their budget. So I understand what you're saying, but it wasn't like they said, oh, this is going to be reduced here, this is going to be reduced here. It really was looking at the collection overall. And I can, hopefully that, I know that's not exactly a clear answer, but with COVID-19, it really threw us in a jumble.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I can say that as far as I know, there was an initial budget reduction proposed of $300,000 kind of before COVID really got a big, and then they took another 300,000. Now what that 300,000 was composed of, you'd have to look back at the city council meeting where they first initially discussed the budget before they discussed COVID reductions, to kind of see what that was, because I wasn't at that council meeting, unfortunately. But yeah, it was kind of, we reduced and then we reduced again, an even bigger amount to make up for some stuff. So, did we have another question?
Yes, this is Sam. On the current usage slide, it talks about what the increase and decreases have been. But what is the, if there's only physical usage and digital usage, what is that percentage? Do twice as many people physically use the library as use it digitally? I don't have that number in my mind.
Sure. So in a normal year, say 2 years ago, we usually see about 2/3 of our checkouts from the library are physical materials and about 1/3 is digital. So right now, like at the end of this quarter, we're seeing about 55% of our checkouts are physical and 45% of our checkouts are digital. So we have seen decrease in the physical usage for sure.
Got it. Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Okay, so I think that we have fielded all the questions there. Thank you, Rebecca. Are you ready for me to go to next slide?
Yes, and I think we're a few slides ahead here.
Oh, that's right. You're right. There we go.
Okay, so our collection strategy this year was to assist the 2 branches that are not open to the public maintain usable shelf space by not allocating new materials to them at this time. So basically, when we purchase new materials, we're not sending any copies to Appaloosa or Arabian unless they're going there because they have been requested by a patron. This has been a real struggle for them to not be open and their circulation to be so much lower than normal. So they're really struggling with their shelf space. And we're reducing the number of copies purchased overall for most titles, which, like I said, is helping the 2 branches that are closed, but also helping us keep our costs down. And because we're not seeing as much circulation, we're still meeting demands. We're also delaying the purchase of some expensive titles like the World Book Encyclopedia, which we normally buy every other year. And this year would have been the year that we buy another copy. We're not buying it this year. We'll see about next year. And then our holds ratio, which is, we usually like to have 1 copy for every 4 holds that we have, which means that most of our customers will be getting the item within about 2 months of the time they placed it on hold. We've actually increased that ratio from 4:1 to 6:1, sometimes greater depending on the format of the item and the level of holds that are on it. So people are kind of experiencing a longer wait time right now, hopefully not too much longer, but we just needed to be able to make some changes because we did reduce the physical collection budget by a fair amount. So those for the physical collection. Here, go ahead and move on. So our digital collection strategy, we felt like it was really important to maintain Overdrive access because it's our highest used digital service. So we're really working hard on maintaining that at normal levels of access, which means we are making sure that we're purchasing the same amount of materials that we had purchased in years past for Overdrive. We also wanted to try to maintain as many of our less expensive digital services as possible to increase diversity of access. A lot of our other services, like Acorn, is popular. Numbers wise, it doesn't really compare to Overdrive, but we wanted to make sure that we still had some diversity of materials and access to it. And then we've also been working on increasing our marketing and training opportunities for digital services for both staff and customers, so that our customers are aware of the digital collection, and hopefully we'll make some movement towards that during these times when maybe they don't want to come into the library as much, knowing that they could still get library materials, but digitally, which even today, a lot of people are still unaware of. So that was our digital collection strategy. And I think that was my last slide, Kira.
Yes, it is your last slide. So
I will ask here if anybody has any questions.
First of all, thank you, Rebecca. That was a comprehensive report on what really is the backbone of our library, and that is, of course, our collections. Any additional questions from either our folks here physically or online? Necessity is the mother of invention, so we got to keep getting inventive on this. Hearing none, thank you very much.
Sure. Just one final kind of thought. We are, because of our decreased usage, our decreased budget is going kind of just fine for now. So we're doing okay, partly because we just don't have as much usage. We are very interested to see what might happen if any of the other when the other libraries either open more or we do the Openplus, because that may impact how well we're able to continue to supply our customers with the material they're expecting. Right now, we're basically only purchasing new materials, so we're not doing a lot of fill-ins. We may not be replacing copies of things that we've weeded. We're basically keeping up with new material at the moment, and we're doing okay. It's going to get harder and less good, for lack of better words, if we start getting more usage, which, we want to see, but it will definitely impact our ability to continue to offer service at the level that people currently expect from us. So just kind of a final thought about that. But for now, for this level of usage that we have, we're doing okay.
Thank you, Rebecca. Let's move on to our next item, and that's our quarterly report. We have Natalie Mitchell with us, who's an acting management analyst, and she's going to be talking about first quarter statistics for library use metrics and financial information. And I would just say that has been one of the core emphasis areas of the board over the last couple of years, is to become more quantitative and to have board members really have some of the facts and figures in terms of our metrics and also our financial performance and where we are on things like the strategic plan, which will come later. Natalie?
All right, thank you, good afternoon. I was going to ask, for the sake of time, if we could refrain from questions until the very end. Thank you so much. So I've just prepared a short first quarter department summary for us. All right, so this is our year-to-date gate count. Our gate count is made up of door counts, our curbside civic center service, and also our drive-through gate count. So the yellow column is our first quarter for fiscal year 2021. Currently, year-to-date, we are at 31.4% of what we were at this time last year. And this is our year-to-date gate count divided by branch. So as you can see, Mustang has the highest gate count. Oh, and I'm sorry, the purple column is our current year. So Mustang has the highest gate count, followed by Civic Center, then Appaloosa, and then Arabian. And I also wanted to mention as well, there has been an update to this slide. The prior year-to-date number was changed to reflect current statistics. All right, and this is our gate counts for the Civic Center curbside service. So as you can see, June and August were peak months for our curbside. This is our Mustang drive-through window. Peak months for Mustang were May and June. All right, and this is our Arabian drive-through. Our peak months for Arabian were May and June, or I'm sorry, June and August. And this is our Appaloosa drive-through. Peak months for Appaloosa were August and September. And this is a new addition to our quarterly reporting. We wanted to make sure that our digital usage is accurately reflected. So we have a digital gate count This is our library catalog account login. And also added this year, we have Pegasus web page visits. And Pegasus is our new virtual library branch. So as you can see, the yellow column is our current year. So we are at 111% of what we were at this time last year for our digital bead count. And as you can see for our digital bead count history, we're definitely on an upward trend. And in lieu of that, this is Pegasus web page visits. And as I mentioned before, Pegasus is our new virtual library branch. So our total page views for the first quarter are 1,816, and unique page views are 1,370. And I put the definitions up there. Unique page views are the number of page views generated by the same user during the same session. And we're going to keep track of these as well, just to make sure that we are accurately reflecting how much traffic we're getting for our new virtual branch. All right, and these are our library card holders. So for 2021, our current number is 91,828. And so since 17-18, there is a downward trend, but this is a part of a continued database maintenance project. So we are currently removing accounts that have been inactive for more than 2 or more years. All right, this is card holders divided by library branch. The yellow column is our current year. So as we can see, Civic Center has the most card holders, followed by Mustang, then Appaloosa, and then Arabian. And this is our internal usage. So internal usage is our physical circulation as well as our Wi-Fi use and our computer use. The yellow column is our current year. So as you can see, we are at 51.2% of what we were at this time last year for internal use. Then we have remote use. Remote use, this is also a new addition to our quarterly reporting. Remote use is our e-circulation plus our database usage plus our Ask a Librarian service plus answered calls and call center. So again, the yellow column is our current year. We are currently at 170% of what we were at this time last year. So we have seen a very marked uptick in remote use. All right, and in lieu of that, this is our total use. So total use is our internal plus our remote. So we are currently at 78.8% of what we were at this time last year. And as Rebecca Jones had mentioned earlier, as you can see for the 2021 first quarter, our internal and remote is more of a 50-50 split this year. And this is a further breakdown of our remote use. So our remote use is made up of e-circulation, which is the purple, our database usage, which is the blue, number of calls answered, which is the orange, and Ask a Librarian, which is the yellow. So as you can see, e-circulation makes up 74% of our remote use. That's followed by 24%, which is for databases, and then number of calls answered, which is at 2%, and then Ask a Librarian, which is less than 1%. And this is remote use continues. We separated each of the services and sort of historically represented them. We started with fiscal year 15-16 and ended with fiscal year 19-20. We're currently working on 2021. And just to reiterate, for our e-circulation, if we track since 15-16 to 19-20, we are at our highest number yet for e-circulation. All right, this is a quick overview of our expenses and our revenue. So for our budget year to date for our revenue, we are at $28,744. And our current year to date, we've actually come in over budget for our revenue at $29,358. For our expenses, our budget year to date was a little bit over $1.8 million. but for our current year to date, we've actually had a savings, and we've come in at a little over 1.7 million. And this is a look at our total circulation. So we've definitely seen quite an increase since the fourth quarter. We're not performing as strong as we were for the third quarter, but we're definitely seeing a significant uptick in performance. And then this is a look at our virtual programs and attendance. So the blue column is our total. So we offered 50 virtual programs for the first quarter, and we had an attendance of about 1,656. So for our youth virtual programming, we had craft story times, virtual family story times, and then for our adult programs, we had crafts such as a crystallized flower or a woven paper bracelet craft. And then this is our computer use and our Wi-Fi use. As you can see for the current year, we are definitely lower than what we were, but this is to be expected due to reduced library hours and COVID-19 safety protocols. And then this is a look at our library shop revenue. So as you can see for our current year to date, we are at $17,132. So we are at 48.9% of what we were at this time last year. And then this is our volunteer slide. I did want to make a mention that the number of volunteers has been updated to 18 because we now have 7 members of Friends of the Library. So that'll be reflected in the second quarter as well. And we have a very low number of hours with a total of 0.05 FTEs. And this is the conclusion of my presentation. I wanted to say a special thank you to the senior management library team and our e-resources librarian Bethany Lomberg. They helped me compile a lot of this data for our new additions to the quarterly reporting. So thank you so much. Do we have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I had one question. When you looked at some of the percentages, for example, programming, people who attended, and in the way of the world, they had to attend virtually. How did that compare with, say, last year at this time? Do you have a sense?
Last year at this time, it was lower, but virtual programming takes much longer to prepare for, so we've offered significantly less programming this quarter.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to do, this is Kira Peters back again, and I'm going to do a quick check to see if any of our virtual board members have any questions. All right, and if not, I'm going to stop sharing. And then I'm going to pass the microphone back over to Library Board Chair.
Well, you didn't have to pass it over for too long, I think, because you're the star of our next report, and that is our patron comment report. For those of you who printed it out in the teeny tiny print. But Kira, go ahead and review this salient points there.
Okay, everyone, give me one quick second. I'm trying to make sure that you guys are all seeing a good screen here while I go over this. Okay, 1 second. My apologies. Okay. All right, you know what, I'm not going to worry about that. I was going to try to pull up these comments so everybody could see them. But basically, first of all, I do want to apologize to those in person who have the printed copy that you really do need a magnifying glass to read what those comments are. But, and I didn't want to read through them verbatim, but I really did want to address any questions that any of the board members might have had after reading through the comments that either myself or senior staff could answer.
I have some questions. This is Sheila Raymond.
Go ahead, Sheila.
Okay. First, the quiet rooms, are they closed for COVID-19 safety? Are there plans to open them, or are we keeping them closed for the same reason they're currently closed?
You know, I know that Mandy Carrico, Senior Library Manager, is on the line, and I'm going to defer to Mandy to answer that. I'm thinking about Civic Center and Mustang specifically.
Yes.
And I do know that the study rooms I've seen people in, but Mandy, can you answer that more succinctly?
Yes, the quiet rooms are closed for safety reasons for COVID. When we reopened the buildings at Mustang and Civic Center, we did do furniture rearrangements to make sure that there weren't any groupings that were larger than a couple of people. The quiet rooms are different than the study rooms. The study rooms are targeted for very small group or individual study. The quiet rooms are a gathering where several people who you did not arrive with all go in there and you shut the door to maintain quiet. Because of that enclosed space and the number of seating, we decided at both areas to close down those quiet rooms just to make sure that we didn't contribute to community spread. We wanted to make sure we really controlled how people were using the library to make sure that they were staying socially distant from each other. And we'll be opening them whenever community spread is no longer a threat.
Thank you for that distinction between the quiet rooms and the study rooms.
Yes.
The other question I had a couple, value line is really is something that people are enjoying. I did appreciate, and this follows up on what Rebecca addressed about the Maricopa County Library District cards. Is there a way of possibly promoting this either on our website, since most people are doing virtual versus in person? Is there a way to promote that? I know I personally have library cards to different libraries and have for many years. So I didn't know if there was a way we could promote that so that people just didn't get frustrated and give up or get mad at us. Does that make sense?
Yeah, hi, board member Raymond, this is Becky.
Hi, Becky.
Gallivan Butler. We've considered doing that in the past, but what we prefer to do is direct them to our Morningstar resource, which is quite similar, as opposed to sending them to another library. That's one option, to use Morningstar. The other option is we do have print copies of Value Line at both Mustang and Civic, and so we've also given them that direction as well. And people, between the three options, the people that we've heard from have seemed pretty satisfied with those choices.
Great. There's also the computer time. I know we have to limit the amount of time people can use the computers, but given the unemployment situation, some people do need to fill out applications online. Are there ways, or if they come up on a case-by-case basis, if they say, hey, I need to do this on the computer, will you allow them more time? I know, Mandy, we've addressed computer time in the past.
We have, and I'll speak to that again. And yeah, in the past, we've addressed it when we're doing normal operations to have it unlimited. Mm-hmm. During COVID, we did limit it to an hour for a few reasons. One is because we are operating the buildings as essential use. So come in, do the essentials, leave. We don't want to encourage people to stay for long periods of time because that increases their risk when they're around other people they don't know. Mm-hmm. Plus, we also have a very limited number of computers. We took out a little over half of them at each branch because they had to be spaced out. Mm-hmm. So it's an hour. If somebody does come up and say that they need more time, unfortunately, we just have to redirect them to sign up to wait again, because on principle with the library, we never place one person's needs on how to use the library over another person's needs. So we don't put staff in the position to say your unemployment is more important than whatever this person is doing in terms of how they need the library, how they use the library. So we are completely neutral in that respect, but we do let them log in once a day. And we know that that makes it constraint, but we're in a constrained time, and it was a hard decision to make in order to figure out how to open this branch during COVID and get people resources without adding to the danger.
Okay, that's fair. And the last is just a comment on page 3, Mustang. There was a patron who included his phone number in his comment, and I feel like that should have been redacted before put it on the agenda. So, because now everybody who has the agenda has his phone number. So that's just an observation. I appreciate your responses. Thank you for being thorough.
Thank you, Board Member Raymond. I will make note of that. You are absolutely right on that. Are there any other questions on the patron comments that we can address?
This is
I
a
think Janet
board
had a
member.
question.
Thank you. I know I keep raising my hand. I can't tell if it works or not. Two things really quickly. When we have reductions, when we have to remove a service, I would suggest that we put some kind of notice or something. I know nobody likes to advertise what they're getting rid of, but it can confuse patrons. If they know that there are services that we have to, databases we have to remove, and the reason why, I think they might understand better rather than going to look for something that's just not there. I think we should be aware of their needs and let them know what's going on. The second thing is, and this is just a housekeeping thing. I think we asked in the past to have this report, which I love, this Excel report, sorted by library and possibly by type of issue, because once it comes to us in PDF, I can't sort it differently. So I know we asked for that. Someday down the road, that would be really nice to have it sorted that way. Thank you. Yeah.
Kira,
Thank you very much, Janet. Yep. Are you going to address her first question, Becky?
Yes, unless you wanted to.
No. Well, I was just going to mention that we do promote that to the public via the newsletter, unless you were going to say something different.
Yeah, we actually did post a 30-day notice about Value Line because, as Rebecca mentioned, it's a very popular resource, and we knew that people would be disappointed to see that we weren't able to continue that subscription. So we did post a 30-day notice on the website saying that it was going to end at the end of September, and suggest that they use Morningstar, which is listed right next to it. And then, as Kira mentioned, we also included in our newsletter, which I believe the current subscription is about 60,000 people that get that monthly, which for our new board members, if you're not on the newsletter list, we would love to add you, but we were very proactive in saying we're eliminating Value Line as well as Hoopla, because that happened at the same time, so that people would know ahead of time and be aware that these things were happening due to the budget limitations, restrictions that we were facing this year.
Janet, this is Kira. I hope that answers your question, and I'm trying to see here if we have any other hand raises. All right, and if not, Chair Collins and I are sharing the microphone, so
we can move right to Mandy, and who will talk about the refund policy update. Mandy?
Yes, and Kara, well, I can just tell you to scroll whenever it's time to move to the next section. Okay, so this is a library refund policy. Normally when I bring policies before the board, I have red line, cross out, and highlights for changes, but this is actually a brand new policy, so you're not going to see any of those edits. This came about, COVID really highlighted this fact. Actually, this came about because we didn't have a policy for refunds before. We just had a procedure that was always in person, and instructions were written out on a form people filled out in order to receive a refund. Now, refunds happen when previously refunds would happen when a patron would check out a book and lose the book, and eventually after 21 days get charged for the book. And in order to be able to use the library again, they'd have to usually pay it down because you get blocked $10 to use the library. They have to pay for those items or return the items. A lot of times they would pay for the items. And if they would found that item in good condition within 30 days, they could bring it back to the library. We would refund them and put that back into circulation. And we did this all by filling out a form in person. Well, as you know, with COVID, our northern branches are now closed. Our southern branches are only open half the time. And there are many people who cannot yet or do not feel comfortable being in public. So coming physically to a branch to return an item is no longer feasible, and it's frankly not right. So we really wanted to rectify that and create a library refund policy that was fair for the public. So that's what we created here. The policy statement is that borrowed library items that are paid for and then returned in good condition are eligible for a refund within specified parameters. Interlibrary loan items are exempt from this policy. Also, items purchased from the library shop are non-refundable. The parameters that are specified in order to be eligible for a refund are: first parameter, library items that are returned in good condition within 6 months of initial payment can be returned for a full refund. We did look at that 30-day time period and increase it to 6 months. When going fine free, we really wanted to emphasize that our focus is on getting the collection back, as well as removing a financial barrier for patrons to use the library. And we really feel that extending the refund period from 30 days to 6 months does help with allowing people to return items that they find outside that window. We much prefer that we get the item back than they pay for it. So we wanted to give them plenty of time. The second parameter is that library items can be returned in person, in a Scottsdale Public Library book drop, or by mail. We really wanted to open up the different ways that people could get their items back to us for a refund. The third parameter is that to initiate a refund, you must contact a library staff member in person, by phone, online, or by mail within the 6 months of the payment for the item. Communication must include the name on the account and the library card number. Loss of refund may occur if a patron fails to contact the staff during the 6-month refund window. We really want to include this because it would be really hard for the staff to keep track if someone just dropped off an item in the book drop. It would be hard to keep track of who's supposed to have a refund and where that item came from. We moved so many materials. We didn't want anything to get lost. So we do put the responsibility on the patron to say, hey, I returned an item that I paid for. I would like my refund so that we can process it. Good conditions is number 4. Good condition is defined as the physical state that allows the item to successfully return to the collection for circulation, and good condition is determined by library staff. So sometimes we might get an item returned that is damaged and it actually can no longer circulate. It would not qualify for a refund. We did want to highlight the fact that good condition is determined by staff, so that way there aren't any, or it lessens any arguments over what it qualifies as a refund and what doesn't. The staff are qualified to judge whether or not the item can continue to circulate. If the item is not in good condition as deemed by staff, then that item belongs to the patron. They keep it. Number 5 is that cash or personal check refunds are issued by City Check through the Accounts Payable Department. Transactions processed by credit card must be refunded on the same credit card. So this actually removes the patron from having to be in front of staff at any time. They'll either get a check in the mail or it'll get returned to their credit card. And I did fail to mention also that another way to pay for items too is online. You can go onto your account online and pay for any fees that you have from items that you're being charged. And in those cases, it's always a credit card payment. And so when we process those, it goes right back to that credit card. And finally, number 6, for payments made by cash, the refund will automatically be issued to the account holder unless the original receipt is produced at the time of the request. This is to account for those times when maybe a husband or wife, neighbor, aunt, uncle, someone not on that account makes a payment for the account without a receipt. We don't know that the account holder wasn't the one to make the payment, and we can't automatically just refund someone without proof. So in those cases, we would need the original receipt. However, we have created a form so that someone can upload a copy of that receipt and still request and receive a refund without having to come in person before a staff member. And so this is the policy that we're putting forth. I'll pause now and see if anyone has any questions about any part of it.
Do we have questions? Hearing none. Let's see. Let's get that a little bit closer. I assume you want an approval on this, Mandy?
We do.
All right. Then I will entertain a motion for approval on the new refund policy as described. Marna moves. Do I hear a second?
I second, Janet.
We've got Fred that beat you to it, Janet, but thank
Oh,
you
that's
very much.
okay. He's there and I'm not, so I'm being COVID safe.
And I'll now ask for all in favor, say aye.
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 Approved. Our next item returns to me, and this is one that I've discussed with a number of board members, and we've actually discussed it at various times in the last year or two, but I think the time is now, and that has to do with stakeholder engagement. You know, it's been a challenging year. We've had a lot of initiatives in the last couple of years, from Fine Free Library to our burgeoning strategic plan and all of the above. And I don't think we've done as good a job as we can, given the talent and the contacts and perhaps our role responsibilities, is engaging with our stakeholders. And for the purpose of this discussion, I'm defining the stakeholders as one, our city council, our mayor and city council, and two, our leadership staff at libraries. So what I would like to propose is that each of us, there's 7 of us, and there's a mayor and 6 city council, 3 of whom will be new in January, that we each become assigned as sort of a contact with the mayor and the city council. What does that mean? That means simply introducing yourself, having an opportunity to sit with them virtually or in socially distant ways, to provide periodic updates on the goings-on at the library board. When something big comes up, like the Fine Free Library, I think that would have been helpful. We were lucky that got through. And Teresa and I spent some time with the mayor, but I don't think we did as good a job as we could have with the city council, particularly individually, I should say. So I'd like you to think about that. And if there are people among the group, which is David Ortega, our new mayor, Kathy Littlefield, these are council folks, Councilwoman Kathy Littlefield, Linda Milhaven, Solange Whitehead, our incoming Tammy Caputi, Betty Janik, and Tom Durham. So I'm going to ask for people to be assigned to them. I will then also ask for 4 of you to take on an additional duty, and that is to be the main contact liaison with each of our 4 libraries. I would like the staff at Civic Center, if they've got a particular issue, to know that there is a designated person, not just sort of a faceless mass of I shouldn't say faceless, right? We are faceless, perhaps with the mask, but a faceless mass of board members. I'd like them to know that Marna's their gal, or it's Sheila, or it's Fred, or whomever. And also just sort of as a general check-in. In other words, developing an individual relationship with their staff and their leadership. So let me pause for a moment and get your reactions.
Sheila, this is Sheila. We have spoken before at length about doing this, and we're looking at this and how to fairly do this. It's almost just draw names and assign, but I do think the chairperson should be the one that talks with the mayor.
I would agree.
I think it should fall with that.
Take that.
And then in January, if that changes, then, keep that going so that the chairperson is the one talking with the mayor. I think that would be appropriate.
Yep.
I agree with this is Jan. I agree with that. Totally.
Okay. And then basically, I think the fair way to do this, draw names, just assign them. And
I think
us
so
know
too.
who we need to do our communications, and you being the chairperson at this time, just giving us an idea of what our talking points are, so that we are more of one voice. Then this is what's important to me, and this is what's important to Janet, and this is what's important to Fred.
Right.
Just to keep it where we have our talking points, so we are of one voice as a board. Thank you.
Well, first let me ask is that something everybody is interested in or feels that there's value?
The engagement, you're asking.
Right.
Yeah, I think this is
The concept.
fantastic idea. And I know sometimes when I email council members, then some have gotten back to me to say, I'm so glad to hear from a member of the library board, so I'm having communication with somebody as opposed to just that entity. So I think this is just a wonderful idea, and I thank you very much, the chair, both Sheilas, for the direction on this.
Sheila,
Maybe I should have. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Sheila, this is Frida, and I'd just like to express support for that too. And I know that I've been involved in other systems where we've done that. So, and it's really helped to not just to keep the communication lines open, but it just helps in relationship building. And particularly in those times when there are issues that come up where, we really need to be on the same page. It's just a great advantage. So thanks for raising this.
The reason I asked, if I hear no objection to this and we move forward, which I think is what I'm hearing, if there is anybody that has special relationships with a city council member, I think we should take advantage of that. And if that's not the case, then I'll do as suggested and just draw names. Same way with the library and the library connections. If somebody's hangs out at the Civic Center all the time, it would be nice to have that be the home library connection, or somebody's up north at Arabian or Appaloosa or wherever. So,
Sheila, this is Janet, yes. If I can interrupt. Sure, I'm Janet. Sure I'm sorry to interrupt. I feel that I have a relationship at Civic because I was a volunteer on the floor for 2 years, and a lot of people, they used to know me. So I would be very interested. There could be two of us because Civic is so big, but I would like to stay with Civic if possible, unless somebody really needs to do that. Thank you.
And Sheila, this is right. Sheila.
Yes.
On the four with the 4 libraries, may I suggest this, that there are 7 of us. So, the 4 of us being, there's a possibility to do 2 per, but I think that the chairperson should exclude from that because of doing the agenda, doing all of the other things. They're already involved. You are already involved in so many ways. And instead to pair up, maybe have 2 for Civic, 2 for Mustang, and then the other 2 at the other 2 libraries. So that would give us the 6, and then the chairperson not have to do that. That's a suggestion.
I think that's a good suggestion. What I would do, and again, in the interest of time, because we've still got a couple big items, we may not get to all of them. What I'd like to do, with your permission, is to identify your contacts. If you have any specific requests, as did Janet, let me know, or through, I guess can that come to me individually, Kira? Can somebody they can individually send me an email, right? Yeah. And then I will, by the next meeting, I will have all of that done, and also working with Kira, perhaps develop a little bit of a format of talking points or an outline, as it were, for a first communication. I would also take the liberty of developing a letter that would go to the mayor and to each of the city council and to the leadership of the libraries explaining the process, so that they would be in identifying who their contact is or contacts, if it's a plural, and therefore acknowledging that they would be expecting a connection with them in the near future. Does that sound all right?
That works for me, Sheila. This is Sheila.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, we'll do it. And I think, let's put our money where our mouth is. We're community leaders, and we need to keep our leadership involved. I had a question from Sam.
A suggestion.
I would add our county board of supervisor to that list, since we get a sizable chunk of money from the county. And it might be that we have 2 different representatives for Scottsdale. It might be divided geographically. I know one of them, and I would be happy to volunteer to be that contact. But you know, I think if Kara agrees that might be equally important to maintain that relationship too.
I like that. We'll do that. And Sam, you got that. All right. I'm looking at the hour. It's 10 to 5. We don't have to break at 2 minutes after 5, but I don't usually somewhere between 5 and 5:20 is usually about as far as we get. I want to ask Kira. I see 3 very important things, and that is our director's report, Openplus technology, and the library strategic plan year 2. My guess is we can do 2 out of those 3. What's your pleasure?
Yes, I would like to do the Openplus, especially I know that Lee Schnorr is here who works with technology and he's got to leave shortly. And I do think the strategic plan could hold if we could do the strategic plan later. And then I could give the Openplus and the director's report, which will both be relatively brief.
And I really want people to look at this. A lot of work, and we'll be prepared to have that first on the agenda in December.
All right, perfect. And I know staff member Leslie Jen is on the call, and he was one of our participants in the strategic plan. So Leslie, we will make sure to invite you to the next meeting to contribute to that agenda topic. So, all right, so thank you very much. And then Chair Collins, if you are good, I will launch right into Openplus. And Lee, I will go quickly because I know you've got to go pretty soon. All right, so Openplus at Appaloosa Library. We are here today at Appaloosa Library. This library branch is closed with drive-through services only. So the senior managers and I have heard about Openplus even before COVID hit. And basically what Openplus is it's a technology that grants library users access to a space even if there's not staff in the building. So basically you've got a library card, you can swipe, you can gain access into the building. So it really does, it really just allows people to access the library even if there are no staff assigned. Now, it's important to note that there are no staff in the building. So with Openplus, you come in, you can browse the collection, you can self-checkout, you can use the computers.
It's inherently scary. I'm just saying.
No, and we will address that. So, and again, we really initially considered this technology to expand services so that in the summer months when maybe on a weekend we're not open to the afternoon, we could use Openplus to potentially expand and open hours earlier, say from a 9 to 11, so people could come in, pick up holds. Well, then, of course, COVID-19 hits impacting the library. And we thought, you know what better time? We talk about taking thoughtful risks. Let's see if we can open up a library branch, provide services, especially to the northern community where Appaloosa and Arabian are both closed, and cautiously, carefully research this and see if we can implement this technology to serve our residents. So that is exactly what we did. And we have spent a lot of time, and I'm not going to read each slide verbatim, but we spent a lot of time analyzing how this would look. So I just kind of went into some of the reasons for Openplus. But as you just heard Rebecca Jones talk about the collection and how browsing really supports circulation, having a library branch building open is very important to support circulation, especially we're seeing that with youth. So if kids can't come into a library and browse, you know, those circulation numbers go down. So we've talked to other library systems, namely Ventura County in California, who's been using Openplus for some time. They have been quite successful with this service. They really had no issues to note. And Mandy can jump in here if I'm missing anything. And really, most importantly here, second paragraph, it allows our northernmost communities in Scottsdale to have some access to this branch, to come in, use the computers, and browse the collection and do self-check. So there are some long-term benefits. This Openplus technology, which I want to make special note that the vendor Biblioteca is who has this service. We're not going to be calling it Openplus. That is a name that Biblioteca assigns to this technology. So the library team is going to be calling it the Pony Express at Appaloosa. So kind of keeping in theme with the horse theme of the libraries, and it's going to be an express service. But basically, it helps with uncertainty as we I'm sorry here. it's going to help with opening up this branch during uncertain times. But even as we make it through COVID-19, this is going to be a technology we can continue to use. Lee can correct me if I'm wrong, but it is also a mobile service. So if we're working here at Appaloosa, you know, the world turns around, it's a bright and sunny time, and we could actually really move this Openplus technology, say, for example, to Granite Reef Senior Center, identify a room, put a library in there, you can swipe your card, get into a building there. So that is really nice. In the future, outside of COVID, it can allow for expanded hours, like I talked about initially, without heavy increase in staff expense. I just mentioned that it can move to another site, and the investment in Openplus can pay off as years to come. So we really strongly feel that there's a great benefit to this, not only as we try to help our community through COVID-19, but well into the future. All right, so I know security and safety is usually a question that everybody has. So really with Openplus, and we've spent several meetings with our municipal security. And without reading the slide, I'm going to go off what I remember in our meetings. And basically what this is going to happen is there are going to be cameras installed in Appaloosa Library. So we are going to be able to see and know who is in the library. So not just anybody with a library card can have access to this branch. You are going to have to go through a process to get access to the library. So you'll have to go through a process, an orientation. You know how to use this responsibly. You're going to sign a waiver that is right now with legal that says you understand when you're using this service, you're going to swipe your card and we are going to know that board member Sheila Collins was at Appaloosa Library. We will be able to see you on camera. Who's going to be monitoring those cameras is municipal security. So they already monitor cameras throughout the city, and they are going to monitor Appaloosa Library. We are also going to have, Lee, this is where I might need your help. We are also going to have a monitor in the staff area. So right now, while Openplus, really the intent is to have no staff, part of the reason we're able to pilot this technology, which might seem very risky to some, is, as all you know, we do have staff in the building. They're operating the drive-through. So while we are not going to have them at service points because we want to use this technology for what it's intended, we do have city staff on site. They are working the drive-through. So it's nice to know that there are city staff here, and especially as we roll this out, they can have access and also view the cameras. Am I correct in saying that, Lee? Yes. And I've got a quick question here from board member Campana.
Does the patron have access to staff that's operating those windows, or are they locked away?
So the question was, do the staff that are using Openplus and have access, do they have, will they be able to contact the staff? And the answer is no. So, and we're doing that very intentionally because what we're hoping for is that this can be successful. We can train our users, and in the future, we can really truly use this without staff in the building. But right now, especially for monitoring and, you know, any potential things that we might not have thought of, even though we've tried to think of everything, we do have staff in the building. Another thing to note is that we are going to have a phone here that's available for the public. So if something does happen, somebody, God forbid, needs to call 911, they can do that. If there's any other issues, we're working through a lot of the procedures right now, but that you can call, call the library's line to report or ask for assistance if you need. But that was a great question. Let me make sure that I'm covering things here. Let's see. So the library cards can access Openplus. So we will educate the public. And why did we choose Appaloosa? There's a couple of reasons we chose Appaloosa. Number one, it's the northernmost library branch. So we really wanted to try to provide access to our community who really right now, if you want to go into an open branch, the closest one to the north is Mustang Library. Mandy knows this very well. Mustang Library is seeing some very high numbers. In fact, that we might have to start monitoring and limiting attendance. So we are seeing a demand for the need for libraries and access to the libraries. So we wanted to provide access to the northernmost part of the community. So distance was a factor. Patron base that has the lowest number of incidents and the gentlest use of the library environment. This is really important because, and I want to call Mandy out, really did a lot of research on what are the incidents like at Appaloosa Library? And it really truly is the most gentle used library within the system. So could we do something like this at a Civic Center library in a Mustang? Probably not, because we've got some other issues to face there. So, but Appaloosa, gently used, and we think that the demographic around this area will be able to be a great pilot program for Openplus, or I should start calling it the Pony Express. Please forgive me there. A larger control on patrons from outside the immediate communities due to, far north locations and less transit opportunities makes it ideal, the location. So I just was talking about that as a trial site. So really based on the fact that we want to provide northern access, this is a gently used library, we do have staff on site, we thought this would be the perfect place to try Openplus out. And again, the security cameras. The other thing that I want to make note of is that we do have the functionality within our Polaris system to, even as you're going through your orientation process, to have Pony Express access, take your picture, so that we will know via our Polaris library system, we can tell, oh, yep, it was Marna McLendon. She swiped in at this time. We've got Marna's picture right here. Oh, here she is on the camera. So we know that that's not something that everybody is comfortable with, but you don't have to use the service. But especially in this pilot program period, really knowing who's in here and knowing that it is a privilege to come in and that we're trusting you, that part was important. Okay, won't people steal without a staff present? So really, people can steal even when staff are present. So we really are going to be trusting the community to use this library responsibly. And again, with those safety controls that I just mentioned, we are not anticipating that. When we talked to Ventura County, they did not have that as a problem. And the other thing that we learned were that the users of this technology really took it seriously, and they were very responsible. They self-policed. They really cared about it and cared about the library. So they would even report on people, if you will, if they thought somebody was not using this privilege appropriately. Again, I mentioned that municipal security has been involved since the get-go. They've been very, very supportive, and again, we'll be monitoring the cameras. And I talked about the phone for emergencies. So that is our plan here. That's hopefully to address some of the frequently asked questions that we get. This is the cost of Openplus. So for year one, the initial startup cost is $22,000. To me, this is very well worth it to provide access to the library. Year two, that's going to go down because that $22,000 covers the cost of install and our annual subscription, which is $9,000. And year two and year three, the cost of Openplus is the $9,321. So again, when you're thinking about the amount of people that you're going to serve, I think very well worth the investment, especially for something that can extend past these uncertain times that we're experiencing. Chair Collins, did you have a question?
Per library.
Correct. Right. That is per library. Okay, and we really did do a cost analysis on Openplus / the Pony Express. So we are hoping that this $22,000 in fiscal year 2021 will provide library access to approximately 13,000 patrons. And really what the staff has been hearing specifically here at Appaloosa, you saw when Natalie did her presentation on the metrics, the drive-thrus, you guys, they're very busy. And one of the questions that Appaloosa staff hears often is, when is the building going to open? So we really do anticipate a lot of the public, especially with the cooler temperatures, if snowbirds are coming back, that there are going to be some people interested in coming into the building to take advantage of the Pony Express. So this was just a little analysis that what we did. And how we're going to afford Openplus is we benefit from the Rasner Endowment. And for those of you who don't know, the Rasner Endowment supports the library in part to the collection and in part to what the library needs. So we are taking the other library needs outside of the collection. The collection is still going to benefit. We typically get about $18,000 annually from the Rasner Endowment. And we are going to, of course, the $9,000 will go to the collection. The other $9,000 we're going to use to help support installing Openplus. Pony Express. And then the rest of that funding is going to come from the general fund. I have money budgeted in the library's admin budget, and we planned for this well in advance. We actually were going to look at doing this without COVID-19, so this was a budgeted item that we planned for early on. This is initial cost analysis continued, and I don't want to get too in the weeds. I know that we're time sensitive here, but really this total 3-year contract is going to total $41,375 to be able to provide access, and we really do hope that the community starts using it and becomes familiar with it, and that more and more people can use it responsibly. Okay, this is cost analysis and high-level operational comparison. So really right now you can see here in this slide, this is a pre-COVID operation. This is what we were operating before COVID-19 hit. Currently right now, these are our hours. So Appaloosa is open from 10 to 6 for the drive-through, 1 to 5 on Friday and Saturday, Sundays closed. We have 7 staff that have to operate, and these staff are very busy, I need to note. Some people might wonder, wow, do you need 7 people to run a drive-through? Yes, you do, because they are getting the holds, they're working the window, they are really servicing all those patrons coming through. So really the potential for the Pony Express is really, it's going to open up this building. It's going to be able to provide people access to come in to use everything that I talked about before. And our plan is to, and actually this is a little bit outdated, I apologize, but when we first launched the Pony Express / Openplus, we are going to do it carefully. So it is not going to be open, like, for example, Monday through Thursday, 10 to 6. We're not going to have it 10 to 6. We need to give staff a little bit of time to get used to this, get the public. So it's probably going to be a little, I know Mandy's on the call, but it's probably going to be a little bit more mid-morning to an early afternoon. So it'll be kind of that mid part of the day.
10 to 2, Kira.
Thank you very much, Mandy.
So that the staff can handle the volume of materials that need to move through without encountering everyone on the floor during that time. And it's always easier to expand than to take away hours as we figure out what is a good formula for that.
Thank you very much, Mandy, for that. So really, and I truly passionately believe this is really a win-win solution. So it's an affordable and safe way to provide public access to Appaloosa. It's going to address recent public complaints about no open libraries in Scottsdale, because I have fielded some of those emails about when are the libraries going to open up. This also is a solution that is not just COVID. It is going to be a solution that's going to help this library system well on and into the future, and maybe not just a library system, but some of our other communities in need. For example, senior centers, Paiute Neighborhood Center. What if it's successful here? This could really be transferable to other areas. And really, it's going to keep Scottsdale on the cutting edge, using this technology efficiently and effectively to serve the community. And I want to make special note that Lee Schnorr is here with the technology team, and this would not be possible without the support from Lee, along with municipal security, because really he is driving the technology piece of this. And Lee, did I leave anything out?
No, you did a great summary.
Okay, perfect. So thank you very much to Lee. So we know that this is new. We know that people are nervous about it, staff included, but I am confident that we've spent the time doing the research and I do see Sheila Raymond's hand raised, that we are going to launch this. And our timeline, everyone, we are shooting for January. So we're aggressive with this. If everything comes through, one of the biggest challenges is the door and access. So this main door here at Appaloosa, to swipe, and how that will open and how that will lock. That's a really big part of this project. We've also spent a lot of time. Mandy Carrico actually organized a user group to come into the library to test out if there weren't library staff here, and she gave them a test, find this, find this, find this. Could they do it without staff on site? And it wasn't easy, and we learned a lot from that exercise. So as a result of that, we are going to have signage that is kind of a layout. I realized that there's not a restroom sign to direct you to the restroom. So a lot of hard work and research has gone into Openplus. So I know that was pretty quick. I'll continue to give updates on this as we move forward with this project, because I think it's going to be pretty significant. Right now, Mesa Public is using Openplus, but differently than what we're using it for. They're using it to monitor and limit access. So they will have staff in the building, but they're using Openplus. Does have I don't know what you would call it, an additional feature that you can monitor and limit attendance, meaning that you get 50 people in the door, Openplus monitors that, and then closes it down. A screen will tell you they're at capacity, which is another feature we're thinking of too. So I know that was a quick run through of Openplus. I'm going to entertain questions. And Board Member Raymond, do you still have your hand up? Can I answer your question?
I do have a couple questions. One is, first, I think this is a really exciting idea. I hope that you get the support that you need to be able to go forward with this. I do have 2 concerns. One is when the people sign up and they get their training and they're able to, use their card to get in, are they going to have to agree that they can't put their card in to say they're going in and send their child in as a babysitter during the day if schools are closed? I'm concerned about child attendance.
Yes, no. And let me address that before you ask your next question. We are, and Mandy, you please correct me if I'm wrong, but really in terms of children, really, and I know this is a little bit different than what you're asking, but I do want to address the youth, because if you're with a parent, someone who is over 18, that parent has the Openplus access. The parent can come in with their child. That will be allowed as long as there is an adult with them. But no, we will not be letting somebody swipe their card and have a kid come in, and that would be quickly noticed, Sheila, on the security cameras if that was happening. So, and especially you can bet when we first initially launched this out, we're going to be keeping close eyes on the cameras and how that is being used. So that is a great concern and question.
And Sheila,
I'm sorry about.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I'll just add that all users will sign an agreement, and it does include that they have to be 18 or older, has to accompany any minors, or we withdraw their privilege to use Openplus.
Good. And then the other one you sort of touched on and thought that maybe we might do it in the future or look at it, Kira, which is the capacity. Right now we have capacity for where people can be in rooms, large groups, et cetera. Is there going to be a capacity limit per CDC guidelines, as an example?
That is a great question. We're going to be monitoring that as well. And again, I mentioned that we're looking into the functionality to monitor the attendance coming in. Right now, Sheila, even based on before COVID and people were in the building, we were not getting high volumes of people even pre-COVID using the building. But we will definitely keep an eye on that and address it if it becomes a concern, because we do pay very close attention to CDC guidelines, especially as it relates to group gatherings.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Any other questions? Okay, Marna is here raising her hand. I'm walking the microphone over to Marna McLendon.
Well, and maybe a question, comment. When I first heard of this, I'm going, are you kidding me? I mean, so I was very skeptical, but you have answered so many of my questions. The most important thing is the process to authorize use. So what all that will entail is critical, but that will give at least me the comfort level that this can work, because a lot of what you said makes absolute sense, and it would be a wonderful thing. I'm hoping that in December we will have more information about that process, because to me that's the most critical thing. Otherwise, wow, very exciting, and thank you.
You're very welcome. And we do already have a process in place, and I know we don't have time to go through that, but really at our next meeting, we will present on the process because it is very thorough. So we are excited about this. Oh, I am sorry about that. Okay. And so I'm going to did you have a question? Nope. Okay. Fred Klein.
Yes. Has anyone given any thought to putting a charge on this nominal fee for use?
Fred,
to recall some of the expenses and make it a little bit more valuable than it might otherwise.
Okay, that's a good question. And Board Member Klein asked about charging a fee, and Fred, the answer to that is no. The public libraries are a free service to the community. So this is something that taxpayer dollars are supporting, and it's a service that we provide. So no, we will be not assigning any fee to this service to the public. But thank you for the comment and question. Anything else? So more to come on Pony Express /Openplus. So wish us luck.
Kira, why don't you move directly into an abbreviated director's report?
I certainly will. Okay. All right. Yes, we do. And I see that it's 5:15, and I think I'm not even sure if I'm going to try to quickly share the screen, but if I cannot do it, I am not going to worry about it. Here we go.
Yeah, we all have, most of us have this in front of us.
Right. Okay, here, look, I have it, and I am going to go quick, and I think a lot of this you are sharing. Okay, so this is my director's report. Thank you, Lee. Just quick project updates. The Storytime Room at Civic Center Library is on pause. That was a capital improvement project that got put on pause with COVID-19. I just gave the strategic plan. We're going to be talking about it at our next meeting. The Hold It vending machines are another service we want to provide to the public, but right now we do not have funding to offer that service, but something on our wish list. Library programming, I want to thank Natalie, already went through all of our programming numbers and metrics there, so thank you, Natalie. We did have our all library staff training that Chair Collins was at, and I might have even referenced this in our last meeting. It was a very successful training. The library staff benefited from that, and we've got the information there that you can look at. But I just wanted to recognize Melissa Orr and the staff development team that put that on, because very important, especially now as we're navigating a new world in public service. The gate counts, again, I don't really need to go into this because you heard it all with Natalie, so forgive me for going quickly through. And actually, look at that, Rebecca covered library circulation. And this was really more of, I just mentioned the hold it lockers. This is something that that I brought up with the Friends of the Library to ask for fundraising to help us fundraise for these hold it lockers, maybe even a vending machine down the line. That was just some specifics on that. Also wanted to note that the Friends of the Library are becoming very active. I believe their board now has 11 people on it. So they're going to be delivering these bookmarks and brochures out through the library. We're going to help them get those out through our drive-throughs and other in the open library branches to support the Friends. This is just information on the hold it lockers, which I'm not going to go into now for lack of time. And thank you. I know that was a whirlwind, but I think we've got it.
And I would just add, thank you, Kara, for the microphone, that I really, really encourage all board members, if not already, to become a friend of the library. The lowest amount of support is $35, and I just checked today. I was at a lovely event at 2 o'clock with an author reading here, and they only have about 50 members. And I think in this community, we should have a heck of a lot more than 50 members in Friends of the Scottsdale Library. So if not, please do check it out online. There will be more information coming, and it's really become revitalized, which was something the library board felt strongly about in these last couple of years. Given that, we'll go forward. Identification of future agenda items. We have 3 big ones already, and one is the continuation discussion and logistics of the stakeholder engagement, the review of the strategic plan year 2, and operational details on Pony Express. Is there any other that come to mind from the group tonight? Hearing none, there'll be a few more that will show up. Believe me, always happens. Board members' reports. Are there any comments or activities for the good of the order by any board members that they'd like to share with their colleagues?
Sheila, this is Sheila. I do want to follow up that I am the representative you guys elected to go to the General Plan Citizen Review Committee meetings. We are nearing completion of the plan, and we have gone through all of things, getting everything down to the glossary approved and getting legal responses. Our next meeting is December 7th, but we are hoping to have everything done by the 14th so that it then can be forwarded and will then be on the ballot in 2021. Yes, sorry.
Thanks for your service on behalf of the board on that, Sheila. Really appreciated.
Oh, I'm incorrect. It's 2022 ballot. Sorry. Looking at my notes now.
It'll be there before you.
I know. Thank you.
Any other comments?
This is board member Janet Smigelski. I just wanted to say, because I do attend the Friends meetings, as Kira showed, they do have a bookmark and a new brochure that should be being distributed in the libraries. And they did hold an event. I'm really glad, Sheila, that you went to it. It's called Airtime for an Author, which was held at Appaloosa. And I think a lot of our memberships are going to be up for renewal. So I too encourage everyone to renew their membership. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from other members? Ed.
When's the next meeting?
The next meeting, I'm not sure if I have the date. It's always the 3rd Wednesday, as I recall, of December. And Fred, we'll make sure that you get information on all those dates coming up.
No, not always here.
It does rotate.
Sheila, according to my calendar, it's December 16th, which is the 2nd, because the 3rd Wednesday is the 23rd.
Yeah. Okay. December 16th then. And then we should get the 2021 dates. Let's make sure we put those in the next agenda item. But generally, they are the 3rd Wednesday at 3:30 on a rotating basis among the libraries, except for July and August. All right, and I hope that we'll be doing the same kind of thing with doing something. I'm not sure what, given these circumstances, but doing something to recognize our staff at the libraries during the holidays, as we've done before. So maybe, Kira, you could put your head together with Mandy and give us some ideas that may need to be done before the next meeting, but whether we can drop off treats safely or something to let them know the library board is thinking about them during the holiday season. Okay? Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Do I hear a second?
Second.
I
Sam
second.
Campan.
There you go,
Okay.
Sam.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much. Meeting is adjourned.